Ontario is speeding up its expansion of alcohol sales in the province. We'll have lots of reaction coming up this hour.
And pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Toronto are responding to the school's offer to end their encampment. We're going to tell you what they said coming up.
And it's the first day of advanced voting in Mississauga's mayoral by-election. Voters can cast their ballots at Mississauga City Hall today and tomorrow.
Good afternoon and welcome to CP24 Live at Noon. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us. Ontarians will soon be able to buy beer, wine, cider, and ready-to-drink alcohol at corner stores.
The province announcing today they've moved up their plan to expand alcohol sales with availability at convenience stores coming September 5th. Grocery stores already with licenses will be able to sell larger cases of beer as of August 1st. And by the end of October, more big box stores will be allowed to sell the lower alcohol beverages like beer and wine. And this sped up plan is going to cost taxpayers, though, to the tune of $225 million to help out the beer store with the transition, as well as giving a discount to convenience stores. And Premier Ford was asked whether speeding up the process is worth that big of a payout.
It's not going directly to the beer stores. Where it's going is to make sure that we protect the beer store employees, to make sure they know they're going to be taken care of. We're going to audit every single penny to make sure it's going in the right place. So it's not going into the big breweries' pockets or anything like that. It's going to the frontline people and who we support to make sure the transition as we go through over the next few years, the beer store plays a critical role in recycling and distribution. And we're going to make sure we protect the employees.
That price tag raising a lot of eyebrows. And with more details and reaction to today's announcement, we bring in CP24's Melissa Duggan. You've been speaking to people about this. Melissa, what do they think?
Lena, it is a gorgeous Friday afternoon in downtown Toronto, and I'm asking people what they think about buying beer at convenience stores. So it's very easy to get answers on this one today. I mean, you could already get Bitcoin at convenience stores. You could get your lottery tickets. You could get your chips. And soon, as we've been talking about, beer, wine, coolers, even ready-made cocktails. What do people here in downtown Toronto think? Here's some of their feedback.
Not a good idea.
Why?
Because too many underage people will be buying them.
Because other places have it and it's working well for them. So why is it not working well for us?
It works other places. I don't know why it wouldn't work here. And it's really just how they're going to regulate it.
I think it should just stick to like LCBO or stores like that, because then like there's no age limit, right? At a convenience store, like teenagers can go buy booze. So I guess that's the reason.
Now, one of the reasons Premier Doug Ford says he is speeding up this move to expand the availability of places where you can pick up beer and wine and coolers is because it is so popular, he says. People want it, and so he's giving it to them. He's also saying this is a way that the province is going to treat adults like adults. We're going to keep collecting more reaction here on the street, see how people are feeling on this Friday afternoon. Back to you guys.
All right, it certainly is a talker. Melissa Duggan reporting live. Thanks so much, Melissa. Next, we'll take you live to the U of T, where pro-Palestinian protesters demanding divestment from that school are not happy with the school's offer and aren't saying whether they will comply if they're told to take down their tents.
Yeah, CP24 Steve Ryan has been at the encampment this morning and joins us now with a little bit more. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari and Lena, we just heard from some of the students who are pro-Palestinian demonstrators that have set up at this encampment here at King's College Circle. And they've been pretty consistent in their two main demands since this thing began. And that is for the U of T to disclose their relationship with Israel and to divest in any investments that they have in Israeli companies. Now, the latest meeting between the University of Toronto and these said students was yesterday, and at that meeting, the University of Toronto offered to allow some of these pro-Palestinian students to sit at the table when it comes to future investments. But they said that they were not cutting ties with Israeli universities. The students who received that proposal yesterday do not appear to be very happy with that, and they are aware that as of 4 p.m. today, all of those people at this encampment will be deemed to be trespassing. That is because the U of T sent out a letter at 4 p.m. yesterday saying that as of, within 24 hours of that letter being sent out, that these people at this location would be deemed to be trespassing if, in fact, they did not leave. So we asked these demonstrators today whether or not they are planning to leave by 4 o'clock, and they said that they're still going over some of the details in the offer that was put forward by the University of Toronto, but they certainly do not seem happy with that offer, and they said, stay tuned. We'll tell you at 4 o'clock whether or not we are leaving or not. Now, here's a reaction that we got earlier on from some of these pro-Palestinian demonstrators. Let's listen.
They've also stipulated in this very offer that they expected a response during our meeting yesterday. How are we supposed to prepare a response in the same meeting that we get the offer? This is a joke of a negotiation. To make matters worse, 30 minutes prior to our meeting yesterday, we were informed that President Gertler is hosting a press conference in the middle of our negotiations with the administration in a completely different building on campus. Why are we meeting with the administration when there is already a predetermined outcome on their end?
Though the university's leadership has completely abandoned their moral duty to uphold human rights and dignity, we will continue doing everything we can to drag this institution into meeting its obligation to students and to the world, just as every generation of student protests has.
So here's how I see this trespass process taking place, and this is based on my law enforcement experience for the past 30 years. If at 4 o'clock some of these people at this encampment do not leave, they will be advised that they are now trespassing. They'll be given ample opportunity to leave. The next step will be a ticket, maybe tomorrow or the day after that, whereby law enforcement, other than the police or the university security, will come by and issue tickets to those that have not left after being advised that they're trespassing. Those tickets could be upwards of $1,000. The last step, and this step is what law enforcement does not want to happen because you never want to put your hands on people, and that is the physical removal. If, in fact, after a ticket, after a warning, after a ticket, and if people continue to stay here at this property after being told that they are trespassing, the police have the authority to arrest people under the Trespass to Property Act, physically remove them, and then summons them to a provincial court date with a fine up to $10,000. That is the last resort, but that will only happen, guys, if in fact the University of Toronto calls in law enforcement to advise that they're trespassing, then calls them back to say that they want tickets issued, and then calls them back the third time to say they haven't left yet and they want them physically removed. That's the last step, and the police will do everything that they can to de-escalate the situation. And if at the request of the University of Toronto they want them to leave, they'll try to do that as peacefully as they can before they have to resort to any sort of force. Send it back to you guys.
Right, de-escalation first. CP24's Steve Ryan reporting live. Thank you, Steve.
A toddler has died after being hit by a recycling truck in Barrie. The collision happened in the south end of the city yesterday afternoon. And police say that the 23-month-old boy was rushed to a local hospital and then airlifted to a Toronto trauma center, but later died. The circumstances of the incident remain under investigation. It is not yet clear if any charges are going to be laid.
A man has been charged with murder in the stabbing death of a woman in a Mississauga motel earlier this week. 25-year-old Waleed Osman is facing a second-degree murder charge after a 50-year-old woman was found dead near Britannia and Whittle Road Monday morning. Police say the suspect and the victim are related, but it's not a case of intimate partner violence.
The NDP and concerned groups are calling for action to help families facing uncertainty due to what they say is a lack of funding for daycares. The news conference comes after the provincial government told childcare centers that it'll implement a new way of funding the national $10 a day program starting in 2025. Many daycares are warning about a risk of closure if a funding formula is not updated sooner to cover the actual cost of providing care. Well, Emily Elder, a full-time parent, says that the closure of daycares would have significant consequences to people in the province.
If this daycare closes, if daycares close across the province, it will not just harm the children who attend these daycares, who attend here, and their families, like mine, like my two children. It will not only harm this community and parents and families all across the province. It will also affect all of the organizations that employ parents as part of their workforce.
NDP MPP Butila Carpoche spoke about the impact these funding delays have on daycares across the province.
Well, Jessica Tomas from the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare says that they are going to do everything in their power to protect daycares across the province.
Never-ending funding delays from the province are putting family and childcare providers in a difficult and uncertain position. As well, the promised emergency funding relief to support centres until the new formula is implemented is far too little to sustain operations. Families need certainty that they can rely on their provider for services, and childcare providers need to know that they can keep their lights on.
And 92% of licensed childcare providers have opted into Ontario's $10 a day program. Well, it is the first day of advance voting in Mississauga's mayoral by-election. Voters can cast their ballots at Mississauga City Hall today and tomorrow. There will be another round of advance voting on June 1st and 2nd, when 22 polling locations will be open across the city. Voters are being reminded to bring a piece of identification with them. Election day is set for June 10th.
All right, a heads up for TTC riders. There's going to be a subway closure that you need to be aware of. It's happening this weekend. There's going to be no service on Line 2 between Woodbine and Kennedy stations Saturday and Sundays because crews are going to be doing track work. But shuttle buses will be running. Regular subway service, that's scheduled to resume on Monday. And speaking of the TTC, let's get a check on traffic today with traffic specialist Azalea Hart. Azalea, good afternoon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So we're looking at a few things on the roads right now. Let's just jump right into the cameras. This is the QEW at Mississauga Road, and we're seeing there's a bit of a backup because there's a collision that happened and it's blocking the left shoulder in the left lane. So just be aware of that. Over on Dorval, there was a collision that happened here where the right lane was blocked, but it looks like they just cleared it up. Taking a look at your typical delays on the westbound Gardiner right now. It's a Friday, so it's a little bit heavier as well. So it's going to take about 20 minutes from Jarvis to Dufferin. And then this is just giving you a look at Dufferin where those closures are. It seems to be moving a little bit. Over on the DVP, it's moving well until Don Mills, where we're seeing a slowdown to York Mills, and it'll take about 15 minutes here, but it's getting heavy and traffic is definitely backing up a bit. On the main roads, out of camera view, southbound Spadina at Dundas Street, all lanes are blocked due to a police investigation. That's it for traffic. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Azalea. Coming up next on CP24 Live at noon, we'll have reaction to the Premier announcing Ontario will expand the sale of alcohol. Stay with us.
This very seriously. We put more money into mental health and addiction than any government in the history of this country, in the history of this province, and we're doing fairly well with that. And it's going to be we're going to continue working with people that need help and support. Not mentioning on healthcare too. Our healthcare spending since we've been in office has jumped over 30%. Never been done before.
And with that announcement by Premier Doug Ford this morning, Ontario is expanding its expansion of alcohol sales in the province, with all grocery stores and big box stores able to sell beer, cider, wine, and ready-to-drink cocktails, including large pack sizes, by the end of the year.
And for more reaction to this from a healthcare standpoint, we're joined live by Dr. Leslie Buckley, a chief of addictions for the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. Doctor, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. This comes on the heels of a number of health organizations, including CAMH, asking the province to develop a comprehensive alcohol strategy. Walk me through your concerns, and will you ask the province to reconsider?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks so much for covering this important story. And, CAMH did release a statement today that we're disappointed in the government's decisions that were announced and really feel like this is a choice of convenience over Ontarians' health and well-being. And it really all comes down to accessibility. So there's multiple studies that show that the single most important lever that impacts the amount of alcohol consumed by a society is accessibility. And what do we mean by that? We mean price. So the minimum price plus taxes. So the higher the price, the less consumed. The hours of availability and the retail density. So, all those things are increasing at this point, and we know that that will have an impact in terms of increased consumption of alcohol.
And Dr. Buckley, the response is also that there's a misconception with the change. Ontario's catching up with the rest of the world, but Ontario will actually have one of the more liberal alcohol retail systems in Canada. Along with that there are still steps the provincial government can take to mitigate the harms, including, letting municipalities opt out. Can you respond to both of those?
Sure. So, I think that was a misconception about us catching up to other places in the world, because interestingly, particularly in Europe at this time, there's been a lot of shifts actually in the other direction. So really sort of taking a more conservative approach to policy, reducing hours, increasing price, and they're seeing health benefits. So that's, promising that we know, what we can do to make a difference. And so, in this case, there's still time, right, to bring in, these new changes with a slightly more conservative edge, right? So being careful about serving and selling, making sure that people are certified who are selling the alcohol product, making sure that the alcohol is kept, away from other food areas, putting labels on alcohol to talk about the, the harms from alcohol. And then, of course, health promotion strategies. So we're really worried about violence and domestic violence, which is already seeing increases, and we know how linked that is to alcohol. We're worried about DUIs. So we need, health promotion. We need to, talk up the harms of health so that people understand that better.
Yeah, and do you wish the province had consulted with health and advocacy groups? What would you have told the Premier if that happened?
Right. So, the Premier does consult, and we do have time, with them to be able to share our concerns. And I think what I would say is, that there's a lot of power, right, obviously, that the government has in making these decisions, and just being, very careful, conservative, and, be ready to pivot and shift back if this isn't looking good, and invest more in promotion, invest more in treatment.
Dr. Buckley, as we wrap up very quickly, is there anything about this rollout that you agree with?
Not really. No, I think that, but mostly it's a step in the wrong direction.
Hey, Dr. Leslie Buckley, CAMH, Chief of Addictions, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for covering this.
And coming up next on CP24 Live at noon, Loblaw boycott organizers say they plan to keep the movement going past May. We'll speak to a member of that group coming up next. Welcome back. We want to tell you more about this story. Loblaw boycott organizers say they are going to keep the movement going past May.
Yeah, right now we're joined by one of the group's moderators, Rick Brown. Okay, Rick, the countrywide boycott has started about a month ago. How's it going? And you're going to be extending it, correct?
Yes, we are extending it, and it's going really well. The Leger poll that came out yesterday showed us at 7 million people participating, which is 18% of the Canadian population, and 58% of the population are aware of the boycott and support it. So that's very encouraging to us because, we have a lot of anecdotal evidence, but this, really quantifies what's happening.
What is the goal here if you want to keep this going indefinitely? How do you even know that the boycott is working?
Well, I mean, the numbers, tell the tale. I mean, we're also seeing like 50% more usage of co-ops in Ontario. Mom and pop shops are getting more business than they ever had before. People are educating themselves, and they're finding better ways and cheaper ways to shop. And many people say they're never going back because, they're supporting their community, and, they're going to the butcher, they're going to the baker, and they're getting better quality food, and they're basically breaking the Loblaw habit.
And Rick, Loblaw has pushed back, saying that it's not responsible for higher food prices. What do you say to that?
Well, I say, well, Mr. Weston, let's look at your last quarter where you profited $500 million. I mean, if it's so tough, how come your profits are up? And, why do we see prices in your store double what other stores have? People are not stupid. I mean, it doesn't work. We see the facts are out there. All you have to do is shop around.
Rick, is there a demand here for Loblaw? If you want to keep this going, what do you want to see the company do?
Well, we want to see the whole industry, be more transparent, maybe return to pre-COVID, prices, because the prices are up 40%, and they used COVID as a mask to keep them going up. They say the prices only went up 1.4% this month, but if it's already 40% high, we want to see it going back the other way so people can afford to eat. I mean, food security in this country is in a bad way, and this is why this grassroots movement was formed. Government hasn't been doing anything. Now they're doing, they're starting to put some pressure on, but people are tired and fed up, and they're hungry.
And speaking of the pressure, the federal government has been putting pressure on major grocery chains to sign a grocery code of conduct to level the playing field for everyone in the food industry. Loblaw finally saying that it's going to sign on. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the food, the grocers' code of conduct is really more for the small players who want to get into the marketplace. Loblaws and Sobeys have it locked up now. They also are in trouble about their real estate practices now. But, I mean, that would benefit people if they're smaller players. You have more choice. I mean, it's all a monopoly now. I mean, every brand you go to is owned by, somebody in the big five. And we want to see more competition and less monopolistic behavior.
Okay. Rick Brown, one of the Loblaw boycott moderators, we want to thank you for your time and your perspective.
Okay, I'd just like to mention one thing. We do have a website called altgrocery.ca, which was developed by volunteers from our group, and all the alternate places to shop across Canada are listed there. So we just figured we'd help people find other places to shop as well. So thanks for your time. And
okay. Thank you, Rick.
Cheap
Appreciate
food.
this.
Okay, bye now.
Thanks, Rick. Ontario is speeding up its expansion of alcohol sales in the province. We're going to have reaction coming up.
Pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Toronto, well, they are responding to the school's offer to end their encampment. We'll tell you what they have to say coming up.
And today's the first day of advance voting in Mississauga's mayoral by-election. Voters can cast their ballots at Mississauga City Hall today and tomorrow.
Good afternoon and welcome to CP24 Live at Noon. I'm Lena Latifat.
I'm Bakari Savage. A man in his 70s has been sent to hospital in serious condition. This is after being hit by a vehicle downtown.
CP24 live at the scene this hour near Spadina and Grange Avenue. Take a look. The collision happened just before 10 o'clock this morning. The driver remained on scene. Police reconstruction teams are currently working on the investigation. Keep it here for the very latest on this developing story.
Okay, and you can see that area at Spadina and Grange is cordoned off. Let's get a check on traffic with Azalea Hart. Azalea, let's talk about that area as well as the rest of the roads in and around the GTA.
Yeah, so the good thing is that there aren't any major issues on the roads right now. There's just a lot of volume. So let's take a look at the cameras. This is the westbound Gardner. I'm showing Bathurst here, but the traffic actually starts somewhere around Lower Jarvis, and it's going to go all the way to Dufferin. So it's moving slowly here. It'll take about 20 minutes. This is just showing you a quicker look at Dufferin, which is moving a little bit faster, so it seems. The northbound DVP is also moving well until Don Mills, and we're seeing a lot of volume going up to York Mills. So this will take about 15 minutes to get through at this time. On the main road, Spadina and Dundas West, all lanes are blocked due to police investigation. That is it. Back to you.
The CP24 traffic report is brought to you by CapitalDirect.ca.
Well, Ontarians will soon be able to buy beer, wine, cider, and ready-to-drink alcohol at corner stores.
The province announcing today they have moved up their plan to expand alcohol sales with availability at convenience stores coming on September 5th. We are live outside a beer store location in the city this afternoon. Here's what else you need to know about this expansion. Grocery stores already with licenses will be able to sell larger cases of beer as of August 1st. And by the end of October, a few months later, more big box stores will be allowed to sell the lower alcohol beverages like beer and wine. This sped up plan is going to cost taxpayers, though, to the tune of $225 million to help out the beer store with the transition, as well as giving a discount to convenience stores. And Premier Doug Ford announced the plan this morning to expand the sale of beer and wine to a variety of stores all over Ontario.
The government is creating the conditions for a more open and convenient marketplace. It will be up to the individual retailers and businesses to make their own decisions about how they participate and when. But this is a really exciting time for consumers and businesses. That's because our plan will create new growth opportunities for local brewers, wineries, retailers, and small businesses. It's going to support local jobs. And most importantly, it's going to give people more choice and convenience.
The beer store released a statement saying, quote, "Today is a significant milestone, reaffirming the beer store's crucial role as a primary distributor of beer in Ontario. This announcement underscores our commitment to responsible beer distribution and environmental stewardship."
And CTV's political commentator Scott Reid thinks Premier Doug Ford believes expanding alcohol sales will be popular with voters.
Doug Ford loves nothing more than peddling the beer story. And you know what? It's a beer story. And it's worked well for him. You know, buck a beer in the original 2014 election campaign. He's promised beer in corner stores. He's going to get it. But you see the price. You got to pay $225 million to the largest breweries, multinational breweries in the world. And so, okay, we're going to pay more to what? Maybe pay more for that case of beer in a corner store. But it's popular. People would like to have that convenience. They shake their head and say, why don't we have it already? They got it in Quebec. It seems ridiculous. Let's get it. So we're going to get it.
Okay, with more details as well as reaction to today's announcement, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. You've been talking to a lot of people, Melissa.
Yes, and convenience is definitely the word of the day. It's up to individual stores and chains to decide if they want to bring in this new sale of beer, of wine, of cocktails to their locations. Might be available at this store soon, where the Lotto Max jackpot, by the way, is $70 million. That could buy you an awful lot of beer right now. We wanted to ask people walking around downtown today what they think about this idea, because the government is saying, hey, this is an exciting new step. Do people agree? Have a listen.
I'm here for it.
Why?
Easier. Yeah, that's all. I mean, we already have it in grocery stores too, so I think it is a matter of convenience, but it's not that, I mean, I think that it's more so people are looking for convenience at this time, so if it works for people, it works.
I see both sides. There is a convenience factor, but I agree. They're going to have to do ID and all that information, so it may not be a great idea.
Sure, kids getting access, but they can get it now.
Some of the first changes you're going to notice starting later this summer. That's when stores that are already selling alcohol, they'll be allowed to sell coolers, ready-made cocktails, that sort of thing. Then it's going to expand to convenience stores, then to big box stores. Something else you'll be able to pick up at some locations, 30 packs. You know, we keep hearing this comparison to Quebec. That's where you could buy 30 packs, also coming to Ontario. Back to you guys.
Okay, CP24's Melissa Duggan with a lot of varied reaction to this announcement. Thanks, Melissa.
Well, the World Court has ordered Israel to halt its offensive in Rafah.
The court considers that, in conformity with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. The court recalls that in its order of January 26, 2024, It ordered Israel inter alia to, I quote, take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence.
That order coming from the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. It was brought forward last week, asking for the court to order a halt to Israel's offensive in Gaza and in Rafah to ensure the well-being of civilians. The ruling comes as part of a larger case by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide. Israel has denounced South Africa's claim, saying it makes the mockery of the crime of genocide.
And pro-Palestinian protesters demanding divestment from the University of Toronto are not happy with the school's offer. And they're not saying whether they're going to comply if they're told to take down their tents.
CP24's Steve Ryan is at the encampment with the latest. The school making it clear that this was a 24-hour offer. So what happens next, Steve?
Yeah, that's right, Lena. So let's start with the encampment itself. And that was set up on May the 2nd by University of Toronto students and some outsiders who are pro-Palestinian. And they have been steadfast in their two demands that they've made with the school, and they are that the school disclose their relationship with Israel and that the school divest from any interests that they have in Israeli companies. Now, the latest meeting between the school and the students here who are demonstrating was yesterday, and the students are not very happy with what was proposed to them. And that proposal included that the students could, in future investments, be at the table to decide where that money is going to be invested. The university said that they are not getting rid of any ties or disconnecting any ties with Israeli universities. And they said in order for these students to have a seat at the table when it comes to any future investments, these students must take down these tents. The University of Toronto released a statement at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon saying that within 24 hours, anybody that is still in this encampment will be deemed to be a trespasser. So you're going to hear from students who provided us with statements earlier on today. After this clip, on the other side of it, we'll talk about what I foresee happening next with regards to the trespass issue. Here's a reaction from earlier. Let's listen.
President Gertler has not met with us once, although we've asked for his presence multiple times throughout this encampment. By addressing the press in the middle of our meeting and by giving a live radio interview this morning, it is clear that the administration has no intention to negotiate or engage in dialogue with us in good faith. They have already made up their minds and they are ready to tell the world. This is not an offer, this is an ultimatum.
We view this as, an offer and, the first time that there's actually been any sort of negotiations, right? Negotiations cannot begin until there's an actual offer. And Mayor Gertler has finally entered the negotiations, so we welcome that he's here. We're glad he's finally here, 76 years too late, 23 days into this encampment. And so we will be here and we will continue to demand divestment.
Now, I and many of my colleagues asked those speakers if, in fact, they're going to vacate this location at 4 p.m. They would not commit to that either way. What they did say is they are going to review the offer that was put forward. So with regards to the trespass, at 4 o'clock or after 4 o'clock, what I suspect to happen or expect to happen is that the special constables here acting on behalf of the U of T will advise the people at this location that they are trespassing. Some time will pass, giving them some time to leave. The next step would be either the special constables or the Toronto Police will then issue tickets, like a speeding ticket. This one will be for trespassing, and that could be a fine upwards of $1,000. They'll be given ample opportunity to leave after that as well. The third and the fourth visit will most likely come from the Toronto Police, and that will be at the request of the University of Toronto, whereby the police will then physically remove people. There is an arrest authority under the Trespass to Property Act, whereby people are removed from the spot that they are trespassing in, and then they will be giving a summons to attend court at a later date, not criminal, it's provincial court, but the fine could be $10,000. So it's a slow process, and it's done that way, Bakari and Lena, so that the police do not have to put their hands on people if they don't have to, because every time you do that, it's an application of force, and somebody can get hurt, and that's the last thing that the police want to do. So they will go through these steps and give people the ample opportunity to leave a couple of times before they go in with force and physically remove them. But that call is going to come from the U of T, not from the police. So back to you guys.
Thanks for breaking that down for us. Steve Ryan reporting live at the University of Toronto.
And a toddler has died after being hit by a recycling truck in Barrie. This happened in the south end of the city yesterday afternoon. Police say that the 23-month-old boy was rushed to a local hospital and then airlifted to a Toronto trauma center, but later died. The circumstances of the incident, it's all under investigation, but it's still not clear if any charges are going to be laid.
A man has been charged with murder in the stabbing death of a woman in a Mississauga motel earlier this week. 25-year-old Waleed Osman is facing a second-degree murder charge after a 50-year-old woman was found dead near Britannia and Whittle Road Monday morning. Police say the suspect and the victim are related, but it's not a case of intimate partner violence.
The federal government is providing more insight into why it rejected Toronto's request to decriminalize possession of illegal drugs. Addictions Minister Yara Sachs says that the proposal did not include age restrictions or limit the amount of drugs a person could have. She says that the plan left her with deep concerns. The minister says that she decided to deny it after Toronto refused to amend the proposal to address concerns from her department. The application sought to decriminalize possession of all controlled drugs and substances for personal use. Well, Premier Ford was asked about the federal government's denying Toronto's request to decriminalize drugs for personal use and also commented on the Safe Supply program.
Safe Supply, folks, a drug addict can go up to a location and get free drugs, hardcore drugs. And what do? They don't even use it. They cut it with fentanyl. And half the deaths out in BC are from Safe Supply. And we aren't out there, promoting that these people are going to be distributing and selling drugs, getting cash, buying other drugs. It's a disaster. And anyone who thinks it's okay, they're wrong. It's not being done here in Ontario. We're going to make sure that we have safe streets, and we're going to support the people with addictions.
The federal government says it's open to adding more medications to the list of drugs covered by its proposed pharmacare program. The bill charts a path toward a universal pharmacare plan that covers select birth control and diabetes drugs. Health Minister Mark Holland says the current list represents an absolute minimum, and the government could expand it based on negotiations with provinces and committee recommendations. Insurance industry representatives have expressed concerns about the bill, saying it could disrupt existing private coverage.
Well, more Americans are now using marijuana daily more than alcohol. Researchers looked at data from 2022 from the U.S. National Survey on Drug Use and Health. 17.7 million people reported using cannabis daily, compared to 14.7 million daily drinkers. And many states have relaxed their laws around marijuana in the last decade.
And a new study shows prescriptions for weight loss drugs have skyrocketed 600% in the last 3 years in the U.S. That's especially true for those between the ages of 12 and 25. In that group, prescriptions rose from 8,700 in 2020 to more than 60,000 in 2023. Many of the weight loss drugs are primarily indicated for type 2 diabetes. The study can't see exactly what condition the medications were written for or if the patients actually took them. And it's the first day of advanced voting in Mississauga's mayoral by-election.
Yeah, voters can cast their ballots at Mississauga City Hall today and tomorrow. There's going to be another round of advanced voting June 1st and 2nd, when 22 polling locations are going to open all across the city. Voters are being reminded, bring your identification with you. Election day is June 10th.
Canada Border Services Agency workers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike mandate. More than 9,000 members voted and 96% supported job action. That could lead to significant disruptions to the flow of people, goods, and services in and out of Canada as the busy summer season begins. Workers have been without a contract for 2 years. Key issues in this round of bargaining include fair wages that are aligned with other law enforcement agencies across the country, flexible telework and remote work options, and equitable retirement benefits.
Well, coming up next on CP24 Live at noon, Doors Open Toronto. It returns this weekend. We're going to talk to the lead programmer of the event. That's coming up next. Doors Open Toronto returns this weekend. The free annual event, it gives Toronto residents an opportunity to explore behind the scenes of public spaces in the city. And for more on this, we're joined live by Christine Williamson, lead programmer for Doors Open. And Christine, thanks so much for joining us. So May 25th to 26th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Do you have any surprises for us this year?
We always have a few surprises, and some of them are actually in the building right
Christine,
behind me here. So you can't
Okay.
hear me? Oh no.
Christine. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Testing.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about it. May 25th and 26th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So lay it out for us. Do you have any surprises this year?
Oh, we always have a few surprises, but a couple that we're really excited about are actually in the building behind me here. So there's a number of spaces at City Hall, Toronto City Hall, that are never open to the public except on Doors Open. So it is your rare opportunity to see these spaces, and you might be surprised by some of the little hidden gems that you find in this building.
Okay, so also there are going to be talks as well. Can you tell us about these talks to learn about the architecture and urban history? Who's going to be leading these talks?
Yeah, we have a number of talks over the course of the weekend, led by our partners at the Toronto Society of Architects on Sunday. We have a talk with with Toronto Heritage at St. Lawrence Hall on Saturday, and we're also doing a talk with author and local historian Adam Bunch, and that's at the Ontario Heritage Centre tomorrow as well.
Okay, and then
all of these talks are meant to give people insights.
And you're also encouraging people to use the hashtag DOT24. Are all of the photos going to be curated for, a special social media montage or a collage later on?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So our social team works really hard, and they love to repost people's photos. Doors Open is a photographer's dream. It is such an interesting opportunity to get all sorts of great shots. So yeah, use that hashtag DOT24, and you might get featured and reposted on some of our social channels.
And that's pretty cool. Christine, what do you want to tell us about the uniqueness of this program?
I mean, the great thing about Doors Open is it's just a really interesting opportunity to see inside some of the buildings that you've maybe walked past 100 times but have always wondered what goes on in there. And it's a chance to, get off the beaten path, learn a new skill. We've got all different kinds of spaces, whether you're into architecture or design or history, you like arts and crafts, museums, all of these kinds of sites are participating, and yeah, it's just a really interesting opportunity to learn more about all the little gems in your backyard.
Okay, and Christine, is there an app, or can people go to a website to kind of get a map to know how to go from building to building, or what buildings in their neighborhoods or their little pockets of the area downtown that they can check out?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we do have sites all across the city, whether you're in Scarborough, North York, or Etobicoke. But if you go to our website, toronto.ca/doorsopen, we have an interactive map and a full list of the 163 sites that are across all 25 wards. You can figure out what's nearby you. Almost all of our sites are clustered so that there's something nearby. If you decide to go to one spot, you can get pretty quickly to another one. And that is by far the best way to plan your weekend. If you prefer a physical map, all of our sites will have physical maps on site, and you can pick one up and do it that way.
And Christine, tell us about the work that went into the planning of this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very much a behind-the-scenes kind of thing, but we have a really great team at the City of Toronto who help coordinate it. But we're nothing without our many sites, all of whom have their own staff, their own volunteers who put in so much time and effort. It is an enormous event, and we are so grateful to all the staff, the volunteers, the people who really make these sites come to life, and we're just so excited to welcome the public through all these doors.
And why do you think it's important for people to take advantage of this?
I think as I say, I think it's just a really interesting opportunity to learn more about your own city. It's free, it's family friendly, it's something to do on the weekend here. We're hopefully going to get some good weather, and it's just a really nice way to learn more about your own city and have a little bit of civic pride.
Okay, Christine Williamson, lead programmer for Doors Open. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.